So I'm Stacey Mann. I'm the Early Years and Childcare Subject Specialist here at NCFE. And I'm joined today by Janet King and Angie Rogers and Karina Poultney-Shaw. We all work together in the same subject specialist team. Janet King is our Education and Childcare Sector Manager. So she will be supporting, and we'll all be supporting each other today in all of the things that are coming up. So as I've said, welcome. This is my first student conference, and we're so happy that you can join us today. And we hope that you have a fantastic session. Today and every day, education and childcare professionals aim to make a positive impact. Gestures can be as simple as a smile, a shared joke, or as impactful as valuing, motivating, inspiring, and forming connections with young learners. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody, and I'm also going to start sharing our PowerPoint presentation. I would like everybody, if you possibly can, to engage with us throughout, use the chat box, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. I'm going to turn my video off now so that it helps a little bit with technology, and share my screen with you. Since COVID-19, learners have seen a decline in their confidence, not only academically, but socially and emotionally. And schools have seen an increase in calls from worried parents and guardians regarding their child's mental health. With this in mind, we wanted to ensure that this student conference considered your mental health and wellbeing, and to help provide you with the skills and knowledge to help support children's mental health within a setting. This conference is aimed at early years education and childcare learners to support with your learning and development. With Children's Mental Health Awareness Week taking place next week on the 7th to the 13th of February, this conference will highlight how to support children with their mental health and to consider the role that they play in the children's and families' lives. We'll give you an introduction to children's mental health, along with hints and tips on how to support children's personal, social, and emotional development in a setting. And we'll look at ways in which we consider our own mental health and its impact in the workplace. You'll get advice and knowledge from our guest speakers, and we'll conclude the event with a live Q&A to give you the chance to ask any questions you may have for our expert panel. Please note that we will be discussing a sensitive issue today, so please take care of yourselves. If you need to step away and have a break at any point, please do. We encourage everyone to use the chat box professionally, and please do feel free to ask questions as we go along, which will be answered at the end of the session or after each speaker, depending on the context of those questions. Please remember that you are representing your organisation, and this is a professional forum. Through participation, you will get much more from the session to inform your practice and your studies. We have a jam-packed agenda for you today, starting with student voices, Holly Anderson and Hol McNally from Gateshead College. Dr. Eunice Lumsdon will be joining us, the subject leader in childhood, youth and families at the University of Northampton. Michaela Pawley, who is the clinical psychology master's student from the University of Birmingham. Colleagues from Fenny's Nurseries will be speaking to us too, and we'll also be hearing from internal colleagues of NCFE. Thank you again for everyone in attendance today. We may have time for a mindfulness activity later on where you'll need a little snack, and my suggestion would be a chocolate. I'll now pass over to our first speakers, Holly Anderson and Hol McNally from Gateshead College.
I've got it. Oh, right. Okay. So are you going or am I going? I'm going, right. Okay. Hi, I'm Holly.
I'm also Holly.
And we're students at Gateshead College. I think one of the biggest challenges while studying has been COVID, just due to various things. For a lot of our learning we're on virtual, and since we are on a very practical course, it was difficult to get we didn't get as many opportunities as we would have had we have been here. Another great challenge was placement. Lack of placement experience was very difficult. It took a lot of people a long time to get their placements, and they did worry that they wouldn't get their hours. I managed to get a placement in a nursery just towards the end of year one. So I think I only started at end of May. So I was only in that placement for about 6 weeks.
I would say another challenge that we face is group work. On the T level, a lot of work is based around group presentations and group activities. And obviously, due to COVID, we've had teachers off isolating, class members off isolating, and that's not because we're coming back to college, because if they're off and we have a group piece, then we've got a member missing. But we have managed to overcome it really quite well. We work really well as a group and support each other. So if someone's off isolating or because they have COVID, then we've all just jumped in to work together to either get their work done or just present their work at the front of the class as though they were here. So I would say a massive way of supporting my own well-being has been writing things down. The workload can get heavy, and it's really important that you stay on task throughout college and you keep up with tasks and handing things in on due dates. So for me, it was really important to see that and have it all written down and have a plan for the week, so that I knew what I needed to hand in, and I knew what was due. Google Classroom's been a massive help for that as well, because a lot of work's been set through that so we can see the due dates. But I find definitely writing it down has been the most helpful.
We were meant to have mock observations where our tutor came in and would assess us to see where we're at, and mine did not go to plan because the children ended up having to do an assessment. It was just before Christmas. It was the second last day before Christmas, so they were totally off timetable. I wasn't aware of that. I was told that it would all be fine, and then it was only on the day of I was told that they needed to do this assessment. So my tutor came in, and as a result, I couldn't do my mock. So now I'm going into my actual observations, not really knowing how I would have done. But also to add to that, right as I was about to approach my actual observation, the school decided to change my class, and I've been put with a class that I don't know and children I don't know, and then was told, and with my observation coming the week after, I met the class teacher once, told her I had my observation, and then she disappeared off with COVID, so I never really got the chance to prepare. So I was already not meeting the criteria because I couldn't have anything prepared. I didn't have a teacher's lesson plan to go off. So as a result, I ended up having to have my observations pushed back. I've dealt with these challenges by being resilient, making do with what I have. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that I change classes, because if I am a good teaching assistant, essentially I should be a good teaching assistant in every class. So I've been supported a lot by college and provided with the information I need, and just I've basically been able to put my classroom learning into practice. So it wasn't ideal that I got changed classes with children that I didn't know. However, it doesn't take long to know how to adapt what I'm doing to fit different children, because in college we've covered how to help children with SEND, we've covered how to help high achievers, we've covered how to manage behaviour and disruptiveness in class. So all I had to do was take everything I had learned in college and put it into practice.
We've had a lot of support from college when it comes to uni. So we had a UCAS member come into the classroom and talk us through the whole process of how to apply and how we should write a personal statement. So from that lesson, I went away and I signed up to UCAS and I filled in all my personal information to start the process. The UCAS team were really helpful. They helped me tweak it a lot and cut it down so that it was within the UCAS limit, because you can't have it too long. So once I'd done my first draft, I took their advice on board. I went home and I sat and redone it, and I think by the end I had about 10 drafts. It was really quite stressful. But once that was done, I sent it off and I heard back from unis really quite quickly.
So my university experience has been similar to Holly's in the generic sort of ways. So got plenty of support from college, the whole process of writing my personal statement and sending it off. Holly covered all that, but it's also very different because I do want to move away. So I began my university experience by going to open days, and I found that ridiculously helpful as it gave me opportunities to compare the universities and their strengths and weaknesses, and it meant I could really find the one that I think is best for me. So I applied for University of Chester, York St John's, Liverpool Hope, Manchester Met and Leeds Beckett. I sent off my application and within 2 weeks I had interviews for all of them. Obviously I was very pleased. York St John's is my top choice purely because of its reputation, and the staff when I went to the open day were ridiculously helpful. It ticked every box. I'm a big fan of travel, and they offer the chance to do an exchange year and study abroad, and that's something that's quite important to me. There's no exams.
Hi, Stacey. It just looks as though the videos stopped playing there. And now back with no audio, I think.
No problem.
A close-knit group.
Good stuff.
And it's just a lovely place to live, and it's not too far from home, but it means I can still gain my independence.
Thank you for listening to me and Holly today about our experiences with the T-level. If anyone has any questions, I will be here to answer.
So on that note, Janet, have we got any questions coming in or anything that you'd like to share about those?
We don't have any questions, I don't think, at the moment, but I will ask Karina if she's seen any that I haven't. But what I would like to say is wow, what a brave thing to do, to actually to hear from students as well, and to capture that student voice and the wonderful experiences you know that and Holly have had. Absolutely superb. I think we can't. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Janet. Holly is here. Apparently, Holly is
Brilliant.
here.
Lovely, Holly. So
Holly
good of you. Yeah.
And then one of the questions that I have in the chat box at the moment is, what is the UCAS application like?
Over to
Stressful
you,
but
Holly.
worth
Yeah.
it.
Stressful but worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then Sarah has said they were brilliant. Would love it if some of my Suffolk New College students would help put something similar together. That would be wonderful. We'd be very pleased to see that.
We absolutely would. Are there any other questions that anybody has for Holly? Or Holly, can you unmute yourself? Maybe you can tell us what that UCAS situation is like, what that experience is like, if you can.
Holly, I've got a question for you. Did you actually have to go for an interview, or did you have something online, or was it all done through your application? Okay, unable to unmute. Understood. Okay, sorry to doubly put you on the spot there, we give you an impossible task. Okay, it's one of those things, isn't it, when you're building up to that really big decision about applying for university and sort of scary and yet exciting all at the same time. And of course, going on to these qualifications doesn't mean university is the next stepping stone. It may well be that the stepping stone is into employment. Okay, 2 interviews, one at Sunderland and one at Northumbria. Okay. Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Well done. Because that's an ordeal in itself. But you've obviously done very, very well. Well done. Well done. No more questions that I can see at the moment. I don't know, Karina, have you got any more there that you can see?
No, there's nothing at present.
Thank you.
That's fine. Sunderland was in person and very long. However, Northumbria was online, but only lasted around 45 minutes. Okay. I have had a little tinker, Holly, and hopefully you should be able to unmute now. And I am just checking to see if our next speaker is here too.
Hello, can you hear us?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Brilliant.
Welcome.
If anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, so my Sunderland interview was an in-person one, and that actually lasted around about 4 hours. It was really quite long. And it was a mix of group activities and an individual interview. And at Sunderland, they offered me a place for primary education with special needs there and then. And then Northumbria, I think I heard back within a day or two, and that was just for primary education. So I'm ready to accept Sunderland because I'm really interested in special needs. So they do special needs alongside primary education.
Wow, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well done. Thank you for sharing your experiences. It really does mean a lot, and it really helps people that are sort of in your shoes, if you like, to really understand and see what it's going to be like, and that it's going to be worth it, and just to keep going on that journey when sometimes things are difficult. And it's been a very tough educational journey so far. So well done you, and thank you.
The other Holly, as we speak, is actually in York University, being interviewed today for a place in York. So we've got our fingers crossed.
Oh, do you know, everybody, after 3, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Did it. We did it. Good
Brilliant.
luck. Brilliant.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I think it's really, really powerful, that peer-on-peer inspiration, and it's really interesting to hear that you've done it in different ways. This new word that we keep throwing out there, this hybrid approach of having online and face-to-face interviews.
Janet, there's another question in the chat there about the type of questions Holly was asked.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. You okay with that, Holly?
Yeah, no problem. It was, like I say, because of the length of the interviews, they were both really different. So at Sunderland, we started off by presenting. So we had to take an artifact to present. And then from that presentation, we moved into a group task about characteristics of a teacher. So we had to do a diamond activity where we come up as a group with 9 characteristics a teacher should have, and rank them from most important to least important. And then we had to expand on why we thought teachers should need those kind of qualities. And then Northumbria was more the attributes you need to be a teacher, what you think you already have, what you could work on, and like how you have the resilience to bounce back, because it's not an easy job. So it was more just getting to know you and how you would cope in different situations and scenarios in schools, and the kind of qualities you need, really, so that they know you're the right person for the job.
Brilliant. And did you base everything on Alison? No, no pressure.
Of course you did.
Fantastic. Thank you so, so much. And what a really, really good question. Yeah. People have asked when we're having when we're actually having these speakers on, if we can put our cameras on. So we can do that moving forward, can't we? That's absolutely fine. Thank
We can
you.
absolutely, and I'll just come on screen for a little while there. The only reason that we're not sharing cameras is that we're using a new platform this time, which is our Teams webinar. So we're just making sure that everybody's is able to share their cameras and their microphones. So we're just bear with us while we're trying to navigate our way through that. Our next speaker. I'm just going to check that she has arrived. So Janet, can I just pass to you for just a second while I just check if our next speaker's here? Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just actually quite overwhelmed with the number of people that have joined the conference, and of course we've got this main focus of mental health and well-being, which is so important and always has been, and I just think gathering together here actually boosts that sense of belonging. We're part of a community. We're part of what's going to make a difference, and certainly you and your students at the beginning of the journey, and the tutors and the assessors and so on who are part of this webinar this afternoon. Everybody here is part of a community, and it's such a lovely feeling. So that's boosting all our emotional health, I think, which is really good. I think we're okay to pass on to our next guest. So I'll leave it with you now, Stacey. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. So without further ado, we are very privileged to be joined by Dr. Eunice Lumsdon, who will be sharing some amazing insights with us and seems much better at technology than the rest of us because she's straight on camera, no problem.
And I've just popped from one meeting to another. I've just abandoned something I was in to be here. So thank you very much for...
No, thank you. Thank you. That's really, really kind of you. And we're really happy that you've joined us today.
Right. Hello, everybody. I gather I'm talking to about 150 people out there. So welcome to my study at home. I explore if I look like a halo at the back. So we've had to learn lots of new techniques and be quite agile and resilient, really, through the pandemic. So I've been asked to talk to you a little bit about higher education and about what that's about. So, and I really just wanted to start by talking to you all with 2 points really, and 2 things I want to say to you. First of all, for everybody out there, whether you're the tutors, whether you are the students studying a whole range of programs that's going to lead you into careers working with children, with infants, children, young people and families, a huge thank you. You don't know yet the beautiful careers that you've got ahead of you, and I wish for every single one of you that's out there that your work life will be as enriched and as beautiful as me. And I have never, and I'm quite old now, in the 40 odd years that I have worked, had a job where I've watched a clock or wanted to go home, because the beauty of working with infants, young children, young people and families, and I'm going to come back to that language I'm using in a minute, whether you're a social worker, whether you're a teacher, whether you're working in an early years setting, whether you're a leader, whether you work in health, and all of those things. When you work with people, they enrich your life every single day. And if I ever stop crying at the stories I hear of other people, that is the time that I will retire. So my first of all is really to say thank you, because you are the green shoots of the future. You are the people out there, the students, who are going to make a real difference to the generations coming behind you. And that is really hard when you yourselves are still going through your own life development and working through things. And I have to, I argue a lot with government. I'm very privileged to do a lot of government work, and I really want to say to you that I'm saying all the time, why can't we advertise and raise the priority for careers working with infants, children, young people and families in the same way we do as STEM? Because if you don't have beautiful people that are aspirational for themselves, understand what they're about and have a constant thirst to know more, how can we develop the children of the future to be the scientists, the designers, the prime ministers, the people that work and serve us food and do all the different jobs? So that's my first point to you. And the second one really is that I think there are quite a lot of you out there doing the T levels. And I want to say a big thank you to you as well, because you probably don't realise this and nobody's telling you, is that you are the pioneers for the country. And I'm very privileged that I have been involved in the policy development, and I sit on the Institute of Apprenticeships route panel where all the T levels are approved. So I know what's going on in the country. And you are pioneers that are where we're learning from, where you must see that you are people, young people that are helping us understand what are the right things that you need to move forward. And those, if you take nothing else from this, I want you to be able to see yourself as absolutely pots of gold. And sometimes our pots of gold need filling up, because the world that you're going to work in doesn't actually always say thank you. My own background is social work. So if I was your age and I was sitting in a further education college or what have you, doing a cash diploma in childcare or early learning or whatever you're doing at health and social care, I wouldn't have said boo to a goose. My A-level results leave an awful lot to desire, but I really wanted to be a social worker, and I want to be a social worker because I would define myself as a woman of difference. And I haven't got much time to talk to you because I only gave you 15 minutes. But I grew up when I was really quite in a time. My mother comes from Sri Lanka and my father was English. And so I know what it's like to be different. And I just wanted to be a social worker. And I felt my passion, and my life really changed from that point on. And now I've got a doctor in front of my name. I'm an associate professor and I do a lot of government advisory work. But when I was your age, there was no way. I used to have to read things and learn them off by heart so I didn't stutter when I was talking. But I found my passion in working alongside those people in society who live in the margins, who face child abuse, who have difficult times, who have experienced all the challenges that poverty might bring. And that is the lived experience for some of you out there as well. I know that, otherwise you wouldn't be doing the programmes you were. But once I found my passion, my life has been so privileged to work alongside many people. And I ended up in higher education by default because I wanted to change policy. I work with students all the time who have come to the University of Northampton, done our early childhood studies course, our ed studies, want to go into teaching, but haven't got the confidence to do that to start off with. And I see them absolutely blossom. I see them I see our students whose confidence levels aren't always as beautiful as we would like them to be, who then enter into the serendipity of the learning experience of higher education, never thinking they will achieve anything. And degrees like the early childhood studies, degrees like education studies and childhood and youth, while they do not give you a professional qualification so you can go straight to be a teacher, what they do is give you the opportunity to be yourself. And at my university, I can't speak for others, we work really hard to ensure that we are working on you all the time, so we have you in sight. I have no excuses, and I always talk to our students right from the start to say that our childhoods define us, but they don't have to define the adults we become. And accessing education for yourself opens up doors and gives you opportunities, but sometimes you need help just to make that transition, or sometimes to get to that door. And I think that's what we do at the programmes we offer in the childhood, early years and education studies at the University of Northampton, is that we start with where you come. So the first thing I want to know is, I want to know about how you first learnt English, how you first, what was your education experience like? You know, if you've been told actually you're no good at this, and I know that, I was told a lot I was no good at this, then you have a blueprint of that. So how can we change that and tilt you? So we see you, I hope, on the programmes that we work, has diamonds. And if you think of a diamond is very, very beautiful. But if you look at that diamond in different ways, the rays come out of it in different ways, and you see things differently. And what we need to do is that we need to enable the future generations who are going to be our teachers, our social workers, are going to write court reports for people, to have confidence in themselves, the ability that what they are doing is really valuable to society. Because without the most precious most precious people working in the sector that what I call of people services, who are able to communicate, understand, and work with people, then we do not have a future as society. And you sitting there, you have experienced the pandemic, but you are going to be the practitioners and the professionals of the future that we have to enable to meet those needs. But higher education isn't something you might just do at 18. You might choose to go to work. You might never choose to do it. And that is okay, because there are other routes for you. But if you do, it's about realizing it is a job of work. It's not just partying. It's about you choosing that you want careers working with infants, children, young people and families, and we've changed the language at government on this. So what we want for you is for you to realise that the people that you are going to work alongside don't choose you. So you have to be the best version of yourself all the time. And that doesn't come easy. That means that we have to look at ourselves in a mirror, and we have to think about the people and the professionals we want to be. And I've noticed some words popping up about me, and I'm really not like that. But what I would say to you is you have to think about, how do you want others to describe you in the work that you do with children and families, etc., in the future. And in order to do that, you have to realise that you're pots of gold, and you have to invest in yourself, because sometimes the world that you're living in hasn't invested in you. And so you have to grasp these opportunities. And higher education and programmes like the ones that I'm involved with really give you the opportunity to find yourself, so that you can then become those amazing people of the future that our next generations will need. And I hope I've answered so much for you in all of that, about why you should invest in your own education, because you're choosing that you want a career working with infants, children, young people and families in some way. And you have got a responsibility to make sure that you are the best possible person, with your knowledge, your understanding, your commitment, your work ethic, to be able to provide the future generations what they need. Is that my 15 minutes up, Stacey?
It is, but for goodness sake, I could sit here and just listen all day.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Eunice. That was absolutely amazing.
Right, what I'm going to try and do is, I think I've just about stuck to time, is what I'm going to try and do is pop in back to your question and answer time. I've got a meeting sort of now, but please feel free, any of you, to email me. We're more than welcome for you to come and join us. I'm more than, to find out more about studying, because it isn't necessarily now. You make decisions later on. I totally changed my career when I was 42. To do what I do now, as my colleagues will need. And it is about, sometimes you just need 5 minutes with somebody that will just make you think about the world differently and tilt your diamond to go a different way. So please feel free to email me, but I'll try and pop in. Is that all right, ladies?
Wonderful.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure everybody will have questions.
There's been some lovely comments in the chat box, and I can only reiterate, thank you so much for coming to speak today, and it was so lovely to hear from you. Very inspirational. Okay,
and it is about mental health well-being, and you just have to remember that you have to invest in yourself, because actually nobody else is going to do it. And you've got teams around you in your colleges that will be there for you, or should be there for you, because that's our jobs, to help you to get to where you want to be. But sometimes that journey for some of us takes a bit longer. I'm in my 60s now. It's taken me a long time to get to this point. Okay, thank you all. I'll try and pop back later on for your question and answers, if that helps. Yeah.
It would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, ladies. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, Eunice.
Bye, Eunice. Wow. So much to unpick there, and so much that has been shared, and just looking through the chat there, I can see everybody's feeling really inspired, and that's exactly what we wanted to do today, is really celebrate how amazing this sector is. So I'm now going to be passing over to my colleague, Angie Rogers.
Hi and welcome everybody. I can't believe I've got to follow Eunice. Oh my goodness. What an amazing amazing speech, and I nearly had, well, I nearly didn't come on. I had to pull myself together a little bit because it was really, really emotional.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So welcome. I'm going to need the PowerPoint slides for this one, if that's okay, Stacey, just to sort of guide us through.
Absolutely. I was completely lost in the moment.
I know, same here.
I'm back on doing what I should be doing.
It's not a problem at all. I just thought that was so inspirational, and I just want to reiterate really quickly. There were some keywords that I wanted to pick out from her fantastic speech, and one of that was the word passion, and that's something that I am very passionate within what I do. I've been in the sector for a very, very long time, in many different ways, and the passion goes through it. It's always there. It's the forefront of my mind as the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I just want to say to all of you out there that you are in control. You are in control of your career, your path, your future. And I think you can make a difference. That's what you've got to tell yourself all of the time, is that you can make that difference. So that's really sort of building on from Eunice's fantastic talk. So I'm just going to give you a very short little insight now, and I don't know what sort of career paths many of you are choosing, but I'm going to give you just to talk a little bit about teaching assistants and where we're going in education in the 21st century. I'm not sure how many of you had experience of teaching assistants out there, but I do believe that there's far more than we actually believe, and they do deserve the 5-star service for what they do. And I've put that word in there. Can you notice that, the word passion? But in order to improve outcomes for children and young people, we need to be recognition of those individuals so they can get that 5-star. So we're going to move forward to the first slide. And on the first slide, I just talk about how us at NCFE, we're proud to create communities that work together to build smarter learning solutions and deliver them for the benefit for everyone in our society. And the fact is, the number of teaching assistants has actually trebled from 79,000 to over 243,000. Now, the expectation of these teaching assistants roles has risen amazingly, but their skill base, it's the skill base that they have that really needs to be recognised. The high level of qualifications, some of them have got level 3 and above, some of them hold university degrees, foundation degrees and BAs. It's absolutely incredible. But many education assessments have to utilise these skills, and they have to make sure that they deploy these TAs to meet those individual needs of those children, to recognise those skills and place them in the right place. I think that is really important to me. So moving on to our next slide, we're looking at them in the 21st century. Knowledge is created beyond the level of individual human participants, and it is consistently shifting and changing. And that's what we as TAs do. We TAs need to be in that changing world. They need to be adaptable. They are adaptable. And they need to have the opportunities afforded by the technologies that should be used to reimagine the 21st century education, making sure that we're focused on preparing those children for life. And that is a really key point. It's important to understand that the professional standards within the TAs, and they're changing all the time, and they have to be, to adapt and change with what's going on. And they have to drive forward the profession to improve outcomes for children and young people. TA qualifications and training need to be radically reshaped to meet with that educational landscape, particularly in the face of what's going on with children's mental health and well-being right now after the pandemic, and recognising the ways forward. I mean, personally speaking, I sometimes think we need to reshape the whole of the education system. Let's focus back on these children's mental health and well-being needs, and let's just take a little step back so we can move forward. So going on to the next slide, it's all about evidence base. It's really important that we make the best use we can of teaching assistants, but we need to make sure that we look at research. We need to base what we're doing on current research and move forward. to make sure that we're informative so we can support our students. TAs add value to what the teacher does. They don't replace them, they add value. So we can put those points in now, Stace, if you're okay with that. And TAs to help pupils develop independent learning skills and manage their own learning. And I'm going to add a point to that, manage their own learning, because it is all about well-being and mental health as well. That, to me, I have a passion about children's mental health and well-being, and that's a key point there. To be making sure that we're used appropriately within the classroom, adopt evidence-based interventions with those small groups. And we know that some schools maybe don't use those intervention moments as well as they possibly could. And ensure that we've got those explicit connections between the learning and what's going on in the real world, I think, is absolutely key. So a thought-provoking there is to really think about the light of the pandemic and the impact that on young children. You know, think about in your own settings and the ways in which we can support those young people. Think about different ways, and I think that is a key point. Thank you, Stace. We're moving on now because this is about evolving, us evolving. I'm sorry, we've got the, so I'll just go back on the sustainability there. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun a little bit. This is a very key point. It's about sustainability. TAs are representative of a positive role models. And this is absolutely key, where we are in the future, where we're going in the future. And our qualifications need to really reflect the values of these TAs. And in a way, sort of moving forward, having that mind shift, deliver training, and whether that be through, you know, CPD or conferences like this or whatever it is just to get that voice heard out there. Linking to those 17 sustainable development goals is absolutely key. Thank you, Stace. And now I come to evolve, and this is the key point. Is about evolving, is utilising the skill sets that we already have. And I know that there are so many young people out there that have got those skills that aren't necessarily being used in the right place. And I think that is absolutely key. And new qualifications and training, give them the status that they deserve is absolutely vital. And you know, sometimes I think to myself whether we need to steer away from the actual title itself, thinking about teaching assistants. Maybe they need to be given a specific title, support specialists, subject support specialists, but given their own sort of recognition within what we do. Thank you. And I just come on to the conclusion there, and it's going back to that word again that Eunice used. It's about promoting that passion. Be driven by evidence is absolutely key. Embrace the skill sets that we already have and offer that specialist strand. Raise the standard, and it's time to evolve. And you can see how passionate I am about it. So give them the 5-star that they deserve. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. If you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat and we can come to them at the end. Thank you. Thanks, Jace.
Thanks so much for that, Ange, and I think it's really, really important. Listening to sort of the feedback from the last session as well, the last student conference, about bringing teaching assistants more into the forefront of this conference, because you have all got different ideas for your futures. So hopefully some of you have been inspired by that to move forward into those roles. Straight away we're getting some lovely comments about agreeing with you completely, Ange, and that and agreeing with what I've said about language being so important as well. So thank you for that. Are there any questions coming up in the chat box that anybody would like to ask?
I haven't seen anything there at the moment. I will keep an eye.
Thank you so much, Karina. And if you have got any questions throughout, please just pop them in the chat box and we'll come back to it at the end as well, because I'm sure you'll be digesting some of the information and then have some questions a little bit later on. And if you don't, that's absolutely fine. You'll also have our email addresses to be able to ask any questions too. I am now going to pass over to Michaela, who's come to speak for us today. Michaela, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, you okay?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
We can, yeah. Right, so what I'm going to do is just share your presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, Michaela. I think you can do your own introduction within your presentation because you've got so many lovely things to say. So over to you, Michaela. Thanks again for joining us.
No problem. How do I change the slides on this, or are you going to do that for me?
I will be your glamorous assistant today, so you can you can tell me next slide, please.
All right, that sounds good. Okay, well, hi everyone. So today I'm going to be talking with you about my journey, both prior to and while studying psychology, as well as share some tips on how to stay sane throughout this entire process. I hope that by the end of this, you're able to take at least one idea away with you that can help better your own well-being, or at least a greater understanding of the different strategies you can adopt. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, as already mentioned, my name is Michaela, and I am a clinical psychology research master's student at the University of Birmingham. I consider myself to be somewhat of a third culture kid, as I moved around a fair bit while growing up. When I was 6, my family and I moved to Shanghai for about 7.5 years. It was a super cool place to live as a child, and I was fortunate enough to go to school with children from all over the world. When I was around 13, we were moved to live in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This was a huge transition from living in China, which has such a fast-paced environment, with skyscrapers being built in a matter of weeks, to a tropical island where you have monkeys and snakes in your back garden and cows walking down the high street. Next slide, please. Thank you. Nowadays, it's becoming more and more common for people to move from place to place and job to job. Some of you may have already done this. Some of you may soon be doing this. And if that's not the case, it is guaranteed that you will come across individuals who have. There's an article that I read that helps people deal with departure that I thought would be worth sharing with you, so that you may be better equipped to deal with your own upcoming transitions, or at least possibly aid another in theirs. The first point is figuring out how to make your transition as gradual a process as possible. You can do this by starting to think weeks or months in advance about what it will mean to leave where you currently are. This can then help you focus on the things that truly matter, as well as give you enough time to prepare for the move. Changing things is stressful, so be prepared, be kind, and try to take your time with it. The second point is showing those you care for that you care. While it may be strange or challenging at first to reveal to others how you feel about them and what their absence will mean to you, it can also give you and the person you care for greater certainty about your relationship. Strengthening the connection that you have with someone can provide you with the necessary support that enables a successful transition. The final tip is to figure out what you would like to continue in your life. Accepting that things will change is crucial in preparing for such a transition. But it can also help to remind yourself that some things will stay the same. To illustrate, you may continue playing a particular sport, or doing a hobby, maintain a certain level of communication with your loved ones, or just schedule to watch a movie and eat a pizza every Friday night. This can help ground you when feelings of change become overwhelming and provide you with the certainty that your whole life isn't going to be suddenly flipped upside down. Next slide, please. I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship to attend boarding school, so I returned to England for my A-levels. This was actually when I first started to study psychology. My first year of A-levels was a challenge though. My mental health wasn't great. I was diagnosed with depression and was trying to mainly deal with this through medication, changing the dose or type every couple of months. I found it difficult to talk to people about this. I didn't want them to perceive me as being weak or needy of their attention to make me feel better. As a result of this, I was dealing with my mental illness on my own. This led me to become more and more reserved, hiding away from any kind of responsibility. Because of this, I didn't have many friends and was predicted to barely pass any of my subjects. With the end of year exams slowly getting closer, I realized that something needed to change in the way that I approached both my studies and how I was treating myself. I started to open up to the people I cared about around me more, talk about how I was feeling, my fears of failure, my fears of not being good enough. Just speaking about this to someone who was willing to listen made a huge difference. Together, we were able to support one another And this helped me understand that many of my friends were actually going through the same negative thought processes as I. We realized that we needed to talk openly to each other more about our mental health. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of reaching out to someone when things start to feel tough. As humans, we are a social species who thrive when we are supported by others. We have this innate psychological need to belong, and when we feel that this isn't being satisfied, that's when mental illness strikes. So please, whenever you feel like you are struggling, no matter how small it may seem, talk to someone. Next slide, please. Another important point that I think is crucial when it comes to studying and well-being is the power of goals. Goals give us something to strive for, a purpose. Research in positive psychology has highlighted the relevance of goal setting and goal attainment for our mental health. One way you can immediately implement this is through writing down what you desire, both in the long and short term. To keep you on track with achieving this, I find creating a weekly planner incredibly useful. When I was studying my bachelor's in the Netherlands, I had at least 3 exams every 2 months. This meant that it was critical that I stayed on top of my work. But I don't just want to study, right? So on a calendar, I would write down all of my classes, lectures, when I would be studying, what I would be studying, and then with all the leftover time, include how I would like to spend it. This meant that I was able to get what I wanted to get done over the course of the day, and know that in the evening I could go see my friends, go out for a walk in the park, have dinner at a restaurant, or visit the movies. Knowing how to dedicate your time in order to ensure that you can satisfy all of your needs, not just those relating to academia or work, but perhaps socializing with others or engaging in hobbies that are important to you, can help keep your well-being in check as you progress through your own careers. So, with that said, I would like you all to take a moment and think about a goal that you have. Again, it can be something in the short or long term, and really try to visualize it. When you have thought of something, can you please, I'm not very good with Teams, so let's do the thumbs up button. Can everyone click that when they've thought of something? Oh, good, I see some little thumbs appearing. Excellent. Okay. So now I want you to think about something that you can do in the next week that will help you come closer to achieving this. It doesn't matter how small of a thing it is. Progress is progress. So I'm just going to give you all a moment to think about maybe a slight change in behavior or an activity that you could schedule. And I would really like you all to try and stick to whatever activity or behavior you've just thought of, and see whether by the end of the week you feel better for making progress towards something that is important to you. Now, another important point is that you should always take the time to relax. Next slide, please. Meditation works for some people. Watching 8 episodes of The Office back to back and eating an entire packet of chicken nuggets works for others. A totally unrelated personal example, by the way. Find out what activities help you unwind, because studying and working is important, but it's even more important to draw that personal boundary for yourself and knowing when to take a break. Next slide, please. As I have already mentioned, I'm now doing a master's course in clinical psychology. My area of focus in this is young people's mental health, particularly in relation to digital interventions and social emotional well-being. Within the next 1.5 years, I hope to start either a PhD or a clinical psychology doctorate specializing in sleep. This brings me onto my final point. Good sleep is fundamental for any level of functioning in anything. Getting adequate sleep helps you live longer, enhances your memory, makes you more creative, attractive, helps keep you in shape, lowers food cravings, can help prevent cancer and dementia, strengthens your immune system, lowers your risk of heart attack, stroke, and diabetes. And it's a mood enhancer, making you feel happier, less depressed, and less anxious. With all of these clear benefits, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to get regular good night's rest. It won't just help you achieve in your studies or beyond, but has such far-reaching implications that science is only beginning to uncover. Next slide. Thank you. So just to skim through all of the tips we have covered here today. 1, when it comes to transitioning into something new, do it gradually. Bring those who are close to you closer by telling them that they matter and find continuity within the change. 2, talk to people. Share with them how you are feeling. Support one another, because no matter how lonely you feel, you are never alone. If you feel as though you can't talk to your friends or family, there are always services that are ready and willing to listen. 3, create goals. Use a weekly planner to help you achieve these goals and be proud of what you accomplish. You've come so far to get to where you are now, and think of how much further you can go. 4, but don't forget to give yourself time to slow down, relax. Don't rush into thing after thing after thing. You always have time, and it's important to know when you need rest. Which brings me on to my 5th and final point, the power of sleep. Getting enough sleep is a key ingredient for positive well-being, so do your best to get at least 7 hours every night. Your brain and body will thank you. And on that note, I hope that you find some of these tips helpful, and I wish you all the best with your future careers. If you have any questions or want to get in touch, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
That was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Michaela.
Wow. Am I still frozen, or can you hear me?
All good. All
You can
good.
hear me, right? Okay. Thank you, Michaela. I was frantically writing things down there, even though I've got the slides, and I will be referring back to them. There's lots and lots of really useful tips in there, and some of them very, very simple, like sleep. I think some people have been talking about sleep in the chat, and just saying, have you got any tips really around sleep and how to support sleep? Because I think, many of us will have had experiences where we're lying awake thinking of the to-do list.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, good sleep hygiene, I think, is mostly about habits. So try to go to sleep and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends, because even though we think that, okay, on the weekend, I'll give myself a bit of a lie-in, it actually has the same effect on our body as jet lag. So then at the start of the next week, we're spending the first few days trying to kind of get back into a routine. So making sure you go to sleep and wake up at the same time. Also, try to only have associations with your bed for sleeping. So don't study in your bed, don't eat in your bed, as easy as it is. And I do this all the time. But it's about strengthening the connection in your brain that bed is for sleeping. When I'm in bed, the purpose of me being here is to sleep. And if you find yourself lying awake at night, unable to fall asleep, get out of bed and try reading a book for 15, 20 minutes, or go for a short walk, or pace up and down your room. But lying awake in bed, again, is affecting that association of your bed is for sleeping. So try to do another activity and then return to bed later, and that might help you fall asleep.
That makes complete sense. It really does. One of the other things that you said about reaching out, and today is actually time to talk day. We did not plan that, but it is time to talk day today. And we've talked as a team this week about reaching out, but I think it's also important to reach in, isn't it? To check on people and check on your friends and family, like you said at the start about, keeping that normality and keeping that connection going. Which I think is really important it's a really key word that I think came out of all of that. That presentation was about connection, because all of the students that are on the call today will be working with children and young people, and connection really is key, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And while you're doing your best to support someone who's maybe seeking that support, you won't be able to give the best support for them unless you're giving the best support for yourself. So yeah, check in with yourself every now and again. And I guess building on that, the importance of drawing like that personal boundary of having some sort of like work-life balance, and just make sure that you're okay.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Michaela. Are you going to be staying with us today for the Q&A at the end, or for the rest of the speakers?
I'm afraid that I do have another meeting.
That's okay.
But I'm happy to give my email, or I had it at on the last slide. So if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. We really, really have had an excellent session so far, and some of those tips I think we're all going to take forward. So thank you.
Oh, excellent. All right. Enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, wow, so much to take away from all of these conversations so far. I am now going to pass over to our education and childcare sector manager, and I think I've got all that mixed up in your title today, Janet, even though I've said it a million times.
It's absolutely fine.
So over to Janet to take her part of the conference.
Oh, thank you. And again, while we're just getting the PowerPoint loaded there, I just think what a powerful set of speakers we've had so far. So yeah, this is difficult coming in at this point, but it's just so good to be here. And again, so good to be able to talk to within a conference to students as well, which is fantastic. It means a lot to all of us here. Okay, so yes, that's me. So I'm Janet and the Sector Manager for Education and Childcare, which just means really that I'm looking after the early years and childcare qualifications, including the T-levels within the NCFE or cash awarding arm. So let's have a look. So every single day, I'm going to start with something Stacey started with, because do you know what? I think we just need to remember this, and it's so simple and yet has a great, massive impact. And that is that every single day, you as education and childcare professionals, because that's exactly what you are, you make a positive impact. And the things that you do can be very simple. A nod to an anxious parent, that gives that sense of belonging that Michaela was talking about. Are you okay? It speaks through that powerful body language. A shared joke, those smiles. It's really important. And they can be the catalyst for change. One thing that makes somebody change the way that their day is going into this has been a really bad start to the day, to actually, yeah, thank you. I'm going to be okay. I feel a little bit better now, and can really change the journey for some people, because what it does is value them, and everybody deserves to feel valued. Everybody deserves to find self-motivation. Everybody deserves inspiration and aspirations. And what you're doing is forming connections with babies, with children, with each other, and with families. And that is massive, because that really will go on to make a positive difference, a difference for you because of the rewards that this will bring, and every day will be different. Every day you will smile, and some days you may feel sad, but do you know what? Everything you do is making a positive difference to somebody. And just as you can remember a teacher or somebody that was influential in a positive way in your life, many young people, many children, many parents, many family members will be touched by you, and what you say and what you do will make a difference. In NCFE, we'd like to see industry champions, so you could be our industry champions of the future, making connections with our students, strong leadership and management, coaching and supervision for staff. Angela Hodgkins, a senior lecturer at the Department for Children and Families at the University of Worcester, tells us that there is a need for more awareness of the emotional impact of early years work in general, but particularly at this very stressful and uncertain time. And we talk about recovery, we talk about post-COVID, But we do so sort of cautiously because we are still being impacted and affected by all of that. These are uncertain times. And for you, where you've been impacted in such a tremendous way in an educational environment, your resilience, whether you feel resilient or not, your resilience has been powerful to get you to where you are now. And practitioners and professionals, and you are a professional now, need opportunities to talk through their own feelings. They need opportunities to talk to colleagues, they need opportunities for informal discussions and more supportive supervision time with managers and mentors as well. And that's so important in preventing emotional overload and burnout within the profession. So this is a rewarding and challenging. Life's a bit of a seesaw, it's full of opposites, isn't it? This is going to be extremely rewarding, but as with anything, there will be challenges along the way. Keep that seesaw going, knowing that actually, if your seesaw is balanced, then you're able to support other people. There are priority short-term needs for the sector and long-term investments for a highly qualified and trained professional sector made up of people like you. And we need to make sure that those things are addressed to ensure that no child gets left behind. If we move on to the next slide, thank you. I want to share some reflections with you from a sixth form college. And these are things that we were told about how students had been feeling during and post as we come out of the pandemic. And the teacher that I spoke to also reflects on how parents and family members felt. So students were feeling cautious and very nervous, less confident, not only academically, but socially and emotionally too. They felt out of the loop. Their friends may have been in the hub of a learning environment, but their meeting place was online. It didn't feel as safe and secure and as inclusive as it could have been. So COVID-19 has clearly affected everyone's mental health and well-being. And I think we can learn a lot from what Michaela was sharing with us there about you're important. Acknowledge and appreciate the things that you've gone through and take time to reflect and to repair and to heal, because you've got a very demanding job ahead. Moving on. So let's not forget the words of the former Children's Commissioner, Anne Longfield. She talked of building back better. How many children are in families that are struggling to support them? How many are starting school so far behind that the journey to catch up feels impossible? How many children with mental health needs or special educational needs aren't getting the help that they need? And these questions that Anne was talking about are the questions that are around the basic rights of childhood, a good childhood. Based on a survey of 669 people working on the front line with families who estimate their services reach 36,000 children between them, the report warns that COVID-19 has resulted in a generation of children in trauma and experiencing mental health issues. These issues need to be addressed before government catch-up education strategies will work. And I think it's important just to reflect on that. We talk about catching up, we talk about levelling up, all of these things that you hear on the news, all of these things that the government talk about. And really, we need to get to a starting point where everybody is feeling safe and secure, and where they feel a sense of belonging and commitment and contentment, rather, where they can make that commitment to their learning. If we move on, we can talk about the Buttle report. And Buttle UK is a charity that provides financial grants to children living in poverty. It carried out a survey between 22nd of June and the 15th of July last year. And it's calling upon the government to recognise what they are calling a second pandemic and put in place a clear mental health strategy before anything else. It found that compared with results from the same survey a year ago, 10% more support workers, 61%, reported mental health problems as a key difficulty for the children they work with. Respondents agreed that adverse childhood experiences have been made worse by COVID-19, with 68% reporting that family mental illness has been impacted the most. Close to half said the pandemic had made things a lot more severe. Within the report, the charity puts forward a number of recommendations to policymakers, so I'll just summarise these. We must listen to frontline professionals. We must prioritise mental health support. Joseph House, Chief Executive of Buttle UK, said, "It's clear that the pandemic has exacerbated some of the very challenging experiences that many children on low incomes were already facing, and with it, the level of trauma they are dealing with." These are the children and the families that you will be working with. These are the children and families that you know. This is what's going on within our society and affecting all of us. This crisis in mental health problems is one of the key drivers in education, from disadvantaged backgrounds falling further behind in their education. If we are to close the growing gap with their more affluent peers, then we must listen to frontline professionals and prioritise mental health support. Otherwise, initiatives like national tutoring programmes are not going to benefit those that need it the most. Let's just have a look at the next slide together. So key workers reported that 51% of the children and young people they work with now struggle to engage in education. A total of 60% of these children have fallen behind in their education because of the pandemic. Reasons children are falling behind included access to IT, dealing with past and ongoing trauma, different age children with different needs in homeschooling, parental, physical and mental health barriers. In contrast, in some cases, key workers said the pandemic has led to positive relationships being built, has meant families have reconnected with each other, and it has led to a decrease in some children being involved in crime. Nearly half of all respondents said the most crucial form of support needed for children going forward was mental health support. In comparison, 9% said that educational support was critical. It's actually quite interesting, isn't it, just to reflect on what people are telling us. People who are working with children and families are reporting about the pandemic and those experiences. Thank you, Stacey. So we offer a range of qualifications, and I'm not going to talk you through all of those different qualifications now, but there are different qualifications that will help to raise awareness and understanding at various levels, from level 2 through to level 3, that look at mental health. So it's things to think about for your professional development. As we move on, you'll also find some useful links there. So we have a careers toolkit, and that careers toolkit will take you all through the different journeys, and it's got podcasts in there. It's got all of the recordings and things that we do in there to help you along the way, and some fantastic things from Dr. Eunice Lumsdon also can be found in that toolkit. The Cpd Carousel is a wonderful opportunity for you to just have a look at the topics. It could be a topic that you're studying in class, and there are things on that Cpd Carousel that involve perhaps a discussion, an interview with another professional working in the sector. All of these things really important to enhance your understanding and enrich your experiences. And of course, if you haven't explored Cash Alumni, then do have a look, because again, you can join a whole community of like-minded professional people. And remember that you are a professional, and to the children and families that you work with, you are an absolute member of staff to them. So remember that and take that responsibility well. And there are some useful links on there. Before we close, I just want to read something for you from the Lancet report, the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Report. Deteriorating patterns of pupil mental health are emerging across the globe, exacerbated by the additional pressures of the COVID pandemic, which is affecting access to educational and employment opportunities for young populations. Finding ways to support pupils in their schools, given the myriad difficulties that they face, requires clearly conceptualized public health models built on solid scientific basis. Failure to implement these models frustrates many of those involved in designing, delivering, and receiving services, given how much children have contact with schools as opposed to the sacred accessibility of mental health services. Additionally, many families are desperately trying to seek support for their children, but are unable to access any care, either because it is not available or the pupil does not meet the referral criteria for mental health services. These frustrations of pupils and their families are mirrored by what teachers experience, who often feel that they are unable to identify or meet the needs of the children and young people that they are working with. So we need to be mindful, we need to be alert, we need to raise an awareness. I want to leave you with a video clip, but just remember, just echoing what Michaela and everyone else has said, looking after ourselves is so important. Look after your own mental health. Recognize when things are getting too much for you and acknowledge that some days are less motivating than others. Some days you'll get more done than others. The old saying, count to 10, is a good one, but it's often too late when you get to that point. And I'm sure we can all recall moments of anxiety that led us to feel angry, sad, or caused us to withdraw from our closest friends and family. Recognizing when that is happening is often referred to as self-regulation, regulating our own feelings. And it's hard to do that. If it's hard for us, just think how difficult it must be for babies and young children. Impossible sometimes. Ask about regulation at your early years settings and be extra vigilant when caring for children, each other, and yourself. Without you, those painful messages which children present through behaviour at play will be missed. Children are communicating. Take the time to listen, to attend in a calm way, and offer opportunities to support growing regulation for the children that you work with, for yourself, and for each other. Let's listen to the voice of the sector. And this is actually a recording from our very own Angie Rogers when she was in the role of a teaching assistant. Let's have a listen. Thank you.
Having schools opened has supported and helped many children's well-being. When we opened fully in February, all children were very eager to return, and our attendance has been excellent ever since. Prior to opening, we had some anxious parents, but once they saw their children return happy and eager for more, they relaxed too. During the lockdown, teachers went above and beyond to support their classes and also individual children, and much of this went on beyond the school day to ensure that children who were struggling at home for a variety of reasons were listened to and filled with confidence by their teachers. Struggles at home came from parents expecting too much and making some children work far too many hours, and others had no support at all. This could be because parents didn't want to help their children, were unable to as they didn't have the skills, or they were busy working at the same time as remote learning was supposed to be happening. Some families struggled, and nationally the rate of domestic violence and safeguarding issues increased, with many children being exposed to this. Luckily, this was only the case for 4% of our school population, and we were in very close contact and liaison with support workers and were able to bring these children into school full-time to help and support them. At the start, we as staff were delivering food parcels to less fortunate families in our school community, and one day a week I was shopping and delivering to ensure they all had food. We're a school with many key workers, so our numbers in school were very high compared to many others in lockdown 3. This meant that just about all staff were working on site daily. The job is exhausting anyway, so to combine that with teaching half a class in front of you, half a class at home, marking and giving feedback in school as well as to those children at home, managing individual requests and supporting children and parents alike, planning and combining this with delivering the life lessons that occurred several times a day, it was all very challenging. Trying to manage all of this whilst not having proper breaks has taken its toll on my staff, who are still not getting breaks due to the bubble restrictions that are in place, and has unfortunately become the norm. I'm fortunate enough to have an amazing team who work their socks off, and they've done wonders in reassuring children and parents, making the transition back to school extremely smooth and welcoming. The children in our care are happy and just love being here. They are extremely motivated by our successful team and feel safe here at school. Where they have suffered is socially, and also their stamina has suffered. Sustained writing, for example, now takes several lessons, and we are building them back up to writing and concentrating for longer. We've brought in the use of emoji cards, so those who find it hard to tell us how they're feeling can show us or relate to a picture. It's amazing how many children tell us that they're hungry. When learning from home, many grazed all day long, and of course in school they eat at set times. We've gone through a lot of cereal and extra fruit in the last couple of months to help them all adjust. Children won't learn very well if they're hungry. So socially, they have missed playing with friends and in groups. In school, they miss not mixing with the younger and older children, but they've gotten used to just playing within their class bubbles. Some have forgotten to take it in turns, and their understanding and awareness of others has required more circle times to enable children to learn empathy and to consider others, as they just haven't been mixing with other children. Fitness levels have mostly been kept up as we were keen to set physical tasks daily, and this has continued in school to ensure that they're having opportunities to share and take it in turns. The dip has come with their skill set, as they haven't been playing in game settings or needing their skills for a specific game, for example. This has been quickly corrected and is being worked on daily with much enjoyment and fun. My biggest concern is for my staff and the education workforce in general. I know of many who have taken early retirement or lessened their hours or left the profession altogether due to the stresses over time, not just from COVID. Finding the balance for those of us still in the business has taken working hours to a whole new level, and I'm not sure how much longer this can be sustained. It's working for now, and that's because of the passion and the drive that most teachers possess, but the goodwill may soon fade if we're not careful. It's been quite tricky for staff. Some have been very isolated and worried about infection rates, but also worried about being home alone with no visitors. And these are young staff with no network in Cornwall. Staff have been put in vulnerable positions and have committed to their jobs tenfold, and now all we hear is the term catch up. These two words are causing more stress than you can imagine. The pressure it's causing is not helping morale whatsoever, and it's so damaging. No matter how many times I tell staff to do what they believe in, they cannot escape the media and continuous worry of being judged based on results this coming year. And that's without national testing in primary schools. Half of us have had our first jabs now based on our age, so we are getting there.
Hi, my name's Anne.
Oh, we're carrying on with the video, but you will be able to look at that, and please do take some time to look at that and reflect on that. There are lots of different case studies which are true reflections of how it's been across the sector in education and childcare. So we hear from people in sixth forms, in primary schools, in nurseries, lots of different sort of angles that we take that from. So please do take some time to do that. I think we're actually on time, and I believe we've got Kirsty Davis, the Chief Operating Officer, and Karen Streeter, the HR Administrator at Fenny's Nurseries, who are going to offer a little bit of insight to the right start for under fives, and we look forward to hearing from them. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies. Hope you're well. I believe Prue Barwood's here as well to take any questions a little bit later on. So over to you.
Fab, thank you. So I'm Kirsty and this is Karen.
Hiya.
So I'm the COO of Fenny's Day Nurseries, and Karen supports all of the HR functionality and the people functionality within the nurseries. It's a really, really exciting time for Fenny's at the moment because we're growing at a rate of knots. Rate of knots. And nurseries are opening all the time. So for us, wellbeing strategy is something that's really, really important because it has to be developed and different people need very different things. At the moment, when we open a new nursery, it's very important that the people team are visible or on site. So at the moment, myself and Karen are very much looking at how HR is no longer HR and that it's a people team and that we're able to support them individually. So we actually have regional people assistants that go out and support our new starters. So whether that be through their probation period, whether it be going through a bit of a time of supporting their mental health, or whether they've had somebody unfortunately pass within the family, that they're able to really be that direct kind of support network within the nurseries for them. We do have a lot of other strategies, and Karen will speak about that, but one of our biggest main focuses last year is that COVID hit everybody so badly, and really for us to do an internal survey to decide on how each person was affected, what that strategy looked like, and really some honest feedback, because we knew that, and like everybody else, we'd never been through anything like it before. So for us to be able to gather the information, really see how we could support them, was something that we gained a lot from, didn't we, Karen? And we were able to analyse the data and really put in specific strategies for whether it be for a specific region, whether it be for a specific nursery, or really even down to the individual, which was really, really important. Karen, did you want to go into sort of the 5 areas of the wellbeing?
Yeah. So as Kirsty said, we did our survey back end of last year, and it highlighted that wellbeing needs to be kind of addressed, looked after, nurtured. So we went on a bit of a journey, and we did a lot of research, and maybe preaching to the converted, but there's 5 areas of wellbeing, which is your physical, your community, your social, your financial, and your career. So all of those elements need to be in check for an individual to feel like their well-being is okay. Naturally, we are able to influence our employees' well-being with regards to the career side of it. So we've really taken that and grabbed it by the horns and thought, what can we do to support that, to improve our employee well-being, and really put together a strategy. So one of the first things we've done, and just to caveat, we are in our infancy, but we're really excited about it. So one of the first things we've done is created what we call our tea and talks. And I don't know if everyone knows, but today is National World Time to Talk Day. So coincidentally, we have a tea and talk this evening, which I'll be hosting with my colleague Jamie, who actually, this is paramount to how wellbeing is so important to us at Fenny's. Jamie's actually on paternity leave at the moment, but he is coming on to host this with me this evening because he's so passionate about it as well. So we are hosting these tea and talks, and they are safe spaces for our staff, and they can come on, and it's at 7 o'clock tonight, and we talk about wellbeing. It's like a check-in. The first one we did was in October, and I shared my story. I have a backstory around my mental health and my well-being that really went down well. But the focus for tonight is about when you look at people's career and their well-being, underpinning that are 4 elements that kind of factor into their well-being at work, and that's supporting each other, which we discussed on the first tea and talk. There's outside support, there's supportive managers, and there's physical environment. So tonight we're focusing on the physical environment, and that will be talking to the team, asking them to share their thoughts on actually what is their staff room like at their nursery. Is it comfortable? Do they want to spend their break in there? You know, do they have an outside space that they can go and get 5 minutes fresh air on their break? Because we all know working in nursery rooms, it's full on. It's a tough job. We're also looking at ways we can encourage them to actually get outside, get that fresh air during their lunch breaks. You know, maybe putting together suggested walking routes for them. We've also got somebody in one of our settings who's a fitness instructor, and we've got our PE coordinators. So we're going to get them on board and looking at actually how can we support you on your lunch breaks, putting together virtual yoga classes or virtual HIIT sessions. Why they'd want to do that on their lunch, I don't know, but you know, giving them these options to really look at the physical environment that they're working in. How are we making that better for them? Then next month when we do our next tea and talk, it will be another session around a different element. So that's kind of our tea and talk concept. We've actually really excited. We've created a hashtag, cup of positivity, TEA, get it, to go with these tea and talks, and the cups actually arrived today. So it's really good timing that we can, all the cups have arrived in nursery today, and then we're saying bring them tonight for your tea and talk, and we can all hold them up, and you know, hopefully they've all got tea in them and nothing else. And then you know, it's just these little things so they feel included. So that's tea and talk. The next part of our wellbeing strategy is around our HR hubs.
Yeah.
So like Kirsty said, we are well, do you want to talk about
yeah,
HR hubs?
we've what we recognised is that HR sometimes to a lot of people means disciplinaries and, you know, grievances and all those kind of really those things that myself and Karen don't necessarily always like doing. And there's so much more to HR. It's about supporting individuals, like we said. And what we recognise is as we grew as an organisation, having that kind of personal touch to somebody, it was quite difficult. So myself and Karen now, we hold HR hubs at each nursery. So unfortunately it's been virtual. Last year we were able to do it slightly more in person when COVID in the summer wasn't so bad. But we've done it virtually this side of Christmas. And it's been a really brilliant way. So each member of staff logs in a time with us, and they have 20 to 40 minutes depending on kind of what slot they want with us. And just talking about whether it be you know, I'm going through this at home at the moment. How can I change my working hours to, you know, I'm absolutely loving my job at the moment. How can I get more training? It might be something way more personal that we have to kind of consider. And, you know, we had an individual that, I know menopause is something that we don't really want to talk about. And as females, we're like, oh, let's not, you know, brush it under the carpet. But actually, it's something that we're all going to go through. We need to have a conversation about it, and how do we support those women within the workforce to, you know, here's some great tips, and this is how we can support you. Also, you know, women having their first baby, we're looking at how we support our men within the workforce. So it's a really important time for us to kind of get all that information out of everybody so that we can really start putting a procedure in place that will be able to support them and make them feel very you know, supported and included. And they've been part of that strategy. I think it's really important as you grow that we see our people as the ideas, and that we can get around a table saying, what do you think, and how are we going to include your, you know, your idea into that really big strategy. And today myself and Karen and our head of talent have sat down and taken loads of time just to run through, you know, what is the plan for the year and what does that look like. And especially with all the changes with COVID, we've needed to be very adaptable at the moment, which our team have been, you know, taken in their stride and done a brilliant job. So yeah, it's a really exciting time for Fennies. We've got loads of other things up our sleeve that we're really excited to kind of kick off throughout the year. But I think the main thing that we've realised, they have been big hits. At the start of last year, we also hosted webinars. Mainly, they kind of started as this is an update on how how everyone's getting on. It was a really important time where people weren't able to socialise or have that conversation, and where we had to bubble. You know, those friendship groups and those relationships felt quite disconnected. So on the webinar, we would do shout outs for people who had done extremely well that week or had, you know, faced a really, really hard challenge. And do you know what everyone used to say to us? Oh my goodness, do you remember those days on a Tuesday evening? It would be like the one thing you had booked in the diary was the webinar. And myself and Jamie would have the conversation and almost host it like a TV show. And it was just something different, and it just brought the conversation to reality, that they were able to type down, you know, oh, I've got the question about this, or Boris updated us on this, you know, kind of policy. How do we implement this, and how do we put this into practice? Or do you know what, I'm just really scared and I'm nervous. What can we do? And it would mean that we could, myself and Karen, could go back to that person, make sure they felt supported, had all of the right equipment around them and all of the right information. So even to this day, I'm really pleased to say that the webinar has continued running. We're now in its 1-year anniversary. Although the change has happened, and webinar now isn't very much like, guess what, Boris has changed all of the rules again and now we have to do this. It's more of a this is what we're implementing from a head office point of view. Look at our new nursery opening. These are our kind of different frameworks that we've got going on, talking more about the education piece, which is super exciting. And what it's done is really engage that wider team. So it's just a fantastic way for us to be able to speak to each person kind of virtually, which I suppose the pandemic has given to us, hasn't it?
I think just to go from that point, now that the pandemic has, touch wood, on its way out, we actually see when we do the webinars now that all the nurseries, rather than them all going home and logging on at home, they actually hold their staff meetings the same day as the webinar. So you've actually got teams of people together in a room logging on to see head office doing the webinar, and it's such a great, you do a shout, you kind of flip the camera or whatever, and you can see them all sitting there, and it just shows how engaged they are to that, which is fantastic.
And we have the senior team then doing shout outs to, so say if we've done a quality audit and the, you know, the education team have gone in and just seen the most amazing things implemented in the room and just outstanding practice. It's a really good way for Regina, our head of education, and her quality development managers to personally say, do you know what, Melissa, or whoever it may be, your activity was outstanding and this is the reason why. And I think, you know, those individuals, don't they get so excited, they feel a bit like embarrassed on the camera. Oh my goodness, she said my name. But it's, you're a person, you're an individual that we respect. You know, you're our next, you know, generation of leaders. We want to inspire you, we want to, you know, nurture you, and thank you so much for doing such an excellent job, because our children and our parents and everybody else around us is recognizing that. So it's just the most amazing thing. Yeah, we're just really, really proud. It's been a really tough couple of years, hasn't it? Yeah. And actually really positive things coming out of it. So yeah, we just want to scream about it from the rooftops.
Oh, thank you so much. Your passion really, really is just projecting from the screen.
And I've got a heart.
I know.
That's what it is. It's the jumper.
It's the jumper. We'll send those hearts back to you as well, because that was really great. And I think it's really important for all the students on the call to hear that after education and after all of the nurturing that might have happened in college and university, that is going to continue, and that you have got the best interests of the employees in mind, because you understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. You know, it's very much about knowing how to self-regulate so that you can support the children in co-regulation, isn't it? So thank you so much for sharing all of those ideas. I feel like there's going to be a tea and talk appear in my calendar.
Yeah,
now.
That's fine. Come on down, everyone. The more the merrier.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You're more than welcome anytime. It was fab.
Thanks.
It's really nice to see some of the comments coming through, and lots of questions that we'll answer a little bit later on as well. So I'm just going to take you through a little bit of Children's Mental Health Awareness Week and the sorts of things that you could perhaps do with the children that you are working with at the moment. So really short and sweet, because I'll be passing over to Angie after this, and then of course this will be sent out to you as well, so you can refer back to it. So Children's mental health is extremely important, particularly with the rise in mental health statistics. The Mental Health Foundation in 2019, so this is probably increased, reported that 1 in 8 children and young people are affected by mental health issues. Settings are reporting a lack of early help and intervention, and so it becomes paramount that we support personal, social and emotional development at a very early stage and at every age and stage. The advice and guidance that we're given is often geared towards parents and how to best support them, but parents are not the only adults in the children's lives, and then therefore we must make it a priority to upskill in this area, learning as much as we can to support the children of our future and their families. An awareness of our own practice allows everyone to have ownership on the delivery. It ensures that everyone's well-being is considered as well. The factors that we can challenge and support means that we can do what we do best in early years and get creative. It's amazing how by changing the language of activity to experience broadens our practical ideas and vision in the setting. Improving well-being in early years comes from embedding those experiences into our everyday, not just activities that are set up, but also they are beneficial, but how we embed all of these things into our practice. So I'm going to take you through a couple today before I pass over to Angie. You could potentially have a yoga studio instead of a home corner, for example, and support the children in stretching their body. Innately, they know how to stretch their body, and babies will often do that anyway. You don't need to be good at yoga. We can really talk about just stretching. We can even talk to the children about posing like different animals and using the environment around them. Think about dissecting your routine and making sure that it works for the children. And whilst you might not be the decision makers in those settings, you can very much influence how the children move through their day. We had Michaela talking about transition for us. Transition is very much, we talk about transition in sort of ways where we're thinking about them having a new sibling or they're moving from room to room, but also there's those transitions that happen during the day, like after lunch, like going from one activity to another. So think about how you do that and think about how you can support the children in that. And then calm spaces, what does the environment look like? How can we make those calm spaces not just be inside but outside as well? Children like to be in the fresh air, we all do, and we can relax outside as well as inside. It doesn't have to just be running around. Relaxation time, reading guided visualizations to the children, maybe having some relaxing music on while you quietly read a story. We all need that balance in our day. And one of the things that I am going to share with you now, and I'll put my camera on for this as well, are the benefits of breathing. One of the number one tools in breathing, in self-regulation, one of the number one tools in self-regulation is breathing. And you may be thinking, how can we teach the young children in early years from birth to 5 to breathe properly and take a moment to breathe? But we can do it in lots of fun ways. And I'm going to show you one fun way today. So I'm going to imagine that everybody's doing this at home with me or wherever you are with me. I don't mind doing it in front of everybody. So we're going to do some rocket ships. So rocket ships are a really cool way of breathing with the children, making it fun, but also for them, it's helping their brain to calm down. So we start with our hands together like this, and you're on screen, so you can do it with me as well. We'll be creative together, and we're going to all breathe in through our nose. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, you're going to breathe out and push your hands up into the sky like a big rocket ship. Ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. and blow that rocket ship away. And 3 of those, or even 5 of those, would be wonderful. Straight away, you've distracted the child, but you've also allowed them to breathe. And what I find when I show people how to do that is the staff do it more so, and they're modelling that for the children. So they'll just walk into a room and go, I think we need to do some rocket ships. So we'll do one more all together before I pass over to Angie. Are we ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. Oh, I needed that one after today. Okay, I'm going to pass over to Angie really quickly, and she's got some lovely things to share with you as well. Thanks, Angie.
Okay, I really hope I've got time for this, Stacey. Please just let me know how time's going, okay? Because I just wanted to say thank you for that. That was really good. And I just jotted a few things down while Stacey was talking there, getting really excited about all the things that I used to do in practice. And I think it's really important, like you were saying, about embedding these. They're quite simple sort of techniques, and that's to do with communication as well. How we talk and communicate with the children makes all the difference. Like that simple smile, that simple gentle pat, you know, just that gentle touch, you know, it's all of those things are so important. But building it into the school ethos, not just a tick box exercise, and I've seen it in many settings where it does become like that, and that's a shame. It needs to be part of that ethos, those values, those behaviours. And so a whole school approach, and that does mean adapting, it does mean changing, but that's what we have to do, particularly in the light of the pandemic, and it's so important. A recent activity that we did in school that I found so inspirational was it was to do with raising money. We took part in what's called the Rainbow Run, raising money for a hospice. And at first the children were just like, oh no, I can't do running, can't possibly run. And it was just simply to run a certain amount of miles in the week, and we were just running because of COVID. We could only do it in the school ground, so it's round the playground area. And I had so many children that were just like, no, can't do it. But do you know what? We practiced for a good couple of months, and the change that I saw in the children just taking time out, we'd go out before lesson started, we'd go out halfway through a lesson, we'd just get up, drop everything, go for that run. Just didn't matter how much the children did. And it was so inspiring to see how the children sort of grew with that activity and how they changed, and the difference that it made. Just that simple activity was quite astonishing. I mean, I don't know whether you'd be able to see this actually from where you are, but this is it. I'll read it out because it's probably easier. This was given to me by one of the children after we completed. Thank you for being amazing. Through the Rainbow Run, you've shown me what it's like. You've shown me through the hard times. You've shown me the support. You truly are inspiring and a friend. And I tell you what, when she gave me that, it brought tears to my eyes. It was so inspirational. So, but it's just those simple things that make such a difference. And another activity following that, and again, this is so simple, was putting little bits of food out on the table, like fruit, tomatoes, snap peas, or whatever it was during the lesson time. And the children were just able to help themselves, not have to ask, and the bowls of fruit and whatever. And it was just amazing, the difference that made. And again, I think, why aren't we doing these things? Very simple changes to make, and the difference that it makes is incredible. So I don't know, Stace, have we got time to do a little activity? And I think there's a link on the slide as well if we don't have it, because you can dip into this fantastic resource. It's got loads of different activities on there, but one that if we have got time to do it now, I don't know how many of you have managed to get a chocolate. I'm going to be honest, I've already started on the box while we were doing it. But if you can, if you have got a chocolate or a sweet or biscuit, whatever it is, let's just take, it's only a 5-minute activity, got a little bit of music to go with it, and I'm hoping you can hear this. So just take a little moment. Literally all I want you to do is look at your sweet. Okay, just sit down quietly, put it down on the table, close your eyes, And have a think now about that sweet. You've just placed it on the table, that biscuit. Just have a moment to think. What's it like? What's it going to taste like? How's it going to make me feel? Take a deep breath in through your nose. Count 1, 2, 3. Hold that breath. And slowly breathe out through your mouth. Now hold the food. Hold the food in your hand, hold the sweet. I want you to unwrap it slowly. Have a good look at it. Hold it up to your nose, have a smell. Deep breath in. Think for a moment how that smells. What signals is it giving you? What does it remind you of? Happy thoughts, happy feelings. Take a moment just to hold it. Now place it on your tongue. No chewing at this stage. Put it in your mouth. Keep your eyes closed. Let the chocolate melt. I perhaps shouldn't have put it in while I was doing it, so apologies for that. Just take that moment to let the chocolate melt in your mouth. What does it taste like? Salty? Bitter? Feel it as it goes down, and that lovely feeling that it gives you. Keep those happy thoughts. And take time to just relax and enjoy the moment. Thank you, guys. That was quite challenging as I put it in my mouth. I suddenly realised I probably shouldn't have put it in my mouth at the same time.
Thanks, Ange. That was really lovely. And again, something that's really simple, that can be implemented, that's not going to take a lot of time. And it is those short, sharp breaks, isn't it, to just allow yourself to just self-regulate and then just go back into the hustle and bustle of the school day. So thank you so much for sharing that. I hope everyone is okay. We are just going to pass over to our lovely Susan Joblin now. Susan, are you there?
I am, I'm here. I'll just put my camera on.
Thank you. And I'm
Afternoon.
just going to put you as a spotlight. I'm just going to spotlight you for everyone. There we go.
Okay, thank you.
No problem at
First
all.
time I've been in the spotlight there. There you go. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm just jumping in on this lovely the afternoon that you're spending with the guys, just to talk about resources, because I've developed the resources, or my team does, for T-levels, for education and childcare, and for a lot of our qualifications in education and childcare as well. But what we really want to know is, and that's why we've got wanted to come on today, was just to ask what students want. What students want from the resources, and what do you use. So it's going to be a little bit of an interactive session, as in I need you to go into the chat box and give me some sort of feedback. So first of all, I want to just sort of ask you, so what resources do you use at the moment? What do you like using? If you can just pop something in the chat box for me. Is it, you know, sort of like resources that are quite that you can use on your mobile phone or on a tablet? Are there resources that are easy to access, or what we call like a game type of resource, like a gamification type of resource? Laptop, somebody's got on there, yeah, okay. Yeah, and again, obviously tutors on the call as well, if you want to give us some yeah, Moodle slides, yeah. By Moodle slides, I'm assuming you sort of mean like e-learning slides, are they? Mobile friendly, right? That's great, yeah. Just caption all this down, yeah. Padlet, yeah. So Padlet style resources, yeah. Right, I've got Grace saying nursery story. Okay. So we have something, it's just at the moment being updated, but we have something called Nursery View, which is a VR type of resource. You can use it on a headset, but you can use it on a laptop as well. And it's about sort of some interactions within a nursery setting as well. So that is something that we do have available. We are getting it updated at the moment because VR resources have changed so much over the last couple of years. So we're getting that updated so it'll work on different types of technology. Right, anything that makes theory or legislation fun. Yeah, okay, well, we all get that one. Yeah, okay. Because theory is quite difficult. Okay. What do you think about e-learning modules? Now, what do you think about doing like sort of just an e-learning module on your own or within the classroom? Has any of you encountered e-learning modules? Okay. Mostly, right, okay, so we're saying mostly short ones. So, yeah, quiz or action. Okay. Nursery View is it an interactive, somebody's asking what's Nursery View. Nursery View is an interactive VR resource that we've built. As I say, it's getting updated at the moment, but then I'll through Janet and Stacey will let you know when that's available again for your tutors to sort of purchase and download. But it is a really good resource, as I say, because of VR and how VR has changed, virtual reality has changed, and the headsets and things like that. What you have to do is it's part of an app, so we have to get it updated at the moment. And somebody's saying something to take away, to do. So what we are thinking about doing, and it's something called the technology is called Rise, but it means that it's like an interact a little bit like learning module, but you can use it on a mobile phone and you scroll through it, and then you can put quizzes and activities in, and you can put videos in as well. So would that be something that would sort of appeal to you? It's quite difficult. I want to have an interaction where people tell me something, but I'll just take it from the chat. Yeah. Yeah. Ones that you can link to practice. Yeah.
Please do feel free to raise your hand if you want to come in and come off mute. It would be great to hear from you.
Yeah, I would be, that would be really good. It's just so I can sort of get an idea of what we really want to do and I know we've got tutors on the call as well, and very much it's about, the resources that we've developed are for both tutors and for students, but we want to do something that's quite specific for students as well, that really sort of fits in with what you need from a revision point of view, from a what we call formative assessing, so you're assessing yourself as to, how you're doing with your learning as well, and it can then link in with what we've done for the tutors and as part of the classroom resources that we've developed. So interactive elements, yeah. Yeah. Makes it more engaging. Yeah, yeah, Prue, go for it. If you want to come off mute, that would be great.
I thought it saved me keep typing away.
Yeah.
It's Prue from Fenny's. So as an apprenticeship lead for us, for the level 2 and level 3 learners, what we found has been the most impactful is it was me that put in the e-learning about them being short, but like even just like simple one pages, something that's really reflective and gives kind of top tips for certain areas. We found that really useful for developing kind of knowledge before they've had that experience in the setting. Those sorts of things have been really useful. And something that a lot of our learners have started to ask for is more about the study skills support, so material that will help them to plan effectively, to think about the way that they use their time. Sort of almost kind of really alluded to what Michaela was saying on the conference earlier today about the importance of being able to plan time, not just you know, you're getting closer and closer to your deadline, and actually then it starts to feel overwhelming. But all those sorts of things that they can do to not get to that stage would be really useful.
Okay, thank you. That's great feedback. Thank you. It's like everything we want to come in front of, like, as I say, tutors. We speak to tutors quite a lot, but it's coming in front of learners as well to sort of say, what is it that you're really looking for? And I know a lot of people have said sort of practical type tasks and self-assessment and reflection tips as well, which is absolutely great as well. I might have to borrow this chat, Stacey, afterwards, and I can just take a copy of those from there. Reflective tips, yeah.
Courtney, I'm going to need to. Oh no, you can unmute yourself. There we go.
Go for it, Courtney. Not sure whether you're speaking. Oh, she can't unmute.
She can't unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
we can.
yes, we can. Yeah.
Hi. I much prefer, like, when we get to, like, be able to sit in class and we're able to do what we're able to help the students do, like firsthand, so practical sides of it. For example, like making Play-Doh or doing activities that the students would do themselves.
Right. Okay.
I am a T-level student.
Okay. So have you encountered any of our resources as part of your T level? Have you used the textbook or any of the e-learning resources?
We've been able to get our hands on, like, things like Moodle. It is like an e-learning resource. We get sessions on it and stuff, which is like slideshows that help us, like, write things down. We're able to access them on our own laptops as well if we need them.
Right. Okay.
We do also have textbooks. We have textbooks to, like, help us when we're not able to access said sessions, and we can just read through them. We can find the theorists and everything that we need in the booklets.
Okay. But you like sort of more practical parts of it as well. So alongside your practical one and thinking about how you can assess it, would you use, if you're using Moodle, but if we produced a resource, say that was it's not the same as what you use on Moodle, like the e-learning, but it's as I say, it's what you call Rise, where you would scroll through your phone and it's got sort of activities in there where you can test your learning. Would that be something you would be interested in? Would you use, do you think?
Yeah, I'd definitely use that, especially when it's like in placements as well. That'd be much, like, help.
Okay. So something where it's got sort of like what Prue was just talking about, which would be like a page of like tips and techniques from for a certain area that you could maybe tap into if you're in your placement, or before you go into your placement, just to remind you of certain things for that, and then just doing a quick quiz and test around that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's great. Thank you. That's brilliant feedback. Thank you. Okay. And has any of you ever used any virtual reality games sort of outside of school or college? No, none of you. I think sometimes it just really depends, because some of them you have to use a headset, and not a lot of people like to use the actual headset. It can be a little bit disorientated, but they are very good resources to use as well. I'm just sort of checking on a couple of my questions that I've got here. I know we've talked about textbooks. How do you feel about ebooks? So instead, like, not having a physical sort of textbook, but having an actual ebook, an online book. Has anybody had an experience of that, or has anybody have you used one? How do you feel about using it? Do you want a physical book, or would you prefer sort of an e-textbook?
If anyone does want to speak, just if you just raise your hand, I can manually unmute you, because we're on Teams webinar. Everybody's automatically muted.
Yes, I've got, if you've tried both books and some mixture of both, really, that's good, yeah. Because I think nobody's saying that one's better than the other. it's, you know, in a resource side of things, it's everybody has their own preference about what they want that the resource to be like. And some people like a physical book, some people like an ebook. Like you say, the balance between both. So like online learning and actual physical resources as well. Yeah. So somebody's initially not a fan, but practical throughout COVID. Yeah. So it is, you know, they are sort of practical if you're remote learning. So when you were learning from home as well, instead of taking a large, which we'll all relate to, a large textbook home, you can actually just have that ebook and you can download it on a tablet and you can have that there as well. Okay. So you like the flexibility between the two as well. And do many of you use and access resources via your mobile phones or mobile devices? Yeah, Courtney saying she does, yeah. Okay. Right, okay, so you use all three. That's great. Because what we don't want to do is try and produce resources that sits across a lot of areas, so you're not restricting it. So say you produce something and it only worked on a mobile phone, but maybe not everybody has that access or wants to use their personal mobile phones, but have access to laptops and tablets within college. So it's, you know, it's about us being able to sort of develop the resources. So this is really good insight on that. And I can see one feedback was that you're trying to get students to read more sort of away from screens. And again, that's a good sort of reflection of having a textbook and an ebook and being able to flick between the two. Yeah, okay. So some students don't have credit or data on those ones, right? Okay, so it would be, and that gives us, that's why, you know, if we're making it for mobile devices, we've got to think about that as well as how you can access it. Even if you haven't got the data or the credit, you'd have to have Wi-Fi to be able to access it as well externally from college as well. So it means that if we did develop something like that, we would have to have an alternative, which is a physical version of it that you could use as well, like a paper-based version or a interactive PDF that you can download.
Hi Susan,
Yeah.
sorry, Prue again. I was just going to say that we do occasionally print resources for our learners. So especially at the beginning of programs, while we might be supporting them to get tech at home if they haven't got Wi-Fi or laptops, etc., then what we are doing in that interim, and sometimes for learners that struggle with using internet-based systems as well, we do print some resources for them so they can have that at home.
Right, okay, that's good, because we do, obviously we've produced interactive PDFs as part of the T-level resources, so they can be used electronically, saved and shared in that way and emailed to the tutor, but they can also, in the same instance, they can be printed as well, so that gives you that flexibility as that. But that's good to know about that, because I think it's just what we really need is we're constantly looking, we go out to providers and this is obviously our first student forum, which we're really excited to be a part of, is to go out and just to get as much information and insight information as possible, so we can pull that together and look at our resources and get the best sort of mix of resources for students and for teachers as well. So, you know, absolutely, that's great. I'll probably have to borrow some of this chat. I've wrote down as quickly as I possibly could, Stacey, so thank you for that. But yeah, if you do have anything afterwards and you know you feel that actually I thought about this, and you know I'm sure there's going to be an area where you can sort of send information, you know, ask questions as well. You know, please feel free to do that as well. But it's been great to get that insight a little bit into what you do and what you use, and that will help us and inform developing our resources. So thank you very much everybody for your time and allow me to join today as well. Really enjoyed. I joined in a little bit earlier, so I've been listening as well. I didn't have any sweets to eat unfortunately, but I did the breathing. Yeah, okay.
Oh, good.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you so much for coming on. I think it's really important to capture the students' voice in all of the things that we're doing here. So thank you.
Absolutely.
It's really, really important. So that brings us to the live Q&A with the panel that we have. So if you have been a speaker today, please feel free to now put your camera on. And Prue, welcome, Prue. Prue is at Fenny's nursery, aren't you? So it's nurseries. So remind me of your job title, Prue, because I forget. I know it's apprenticeship something.
Yeah, it's the Apprenticeship Development Academy lead. So to be fair, it's not that short and sweet. So
Yeah. Right. Okay. So are there any questions from anybody at all about anything that we've discussed today? First of all, and secondly, I think what we need from you as well is what you would like going forward for our next student conference. So our next student conference, while you're thinking of questions and popping questions in the chat, will be on May the 11th. And we very much want to hear from you about what you'd like that theme to be. So do share that with us. Okay, so we've got a question here to everybody on the panel. Are there any apps out there for mindfulness that are free? Well, shall I take that one?
If you can.
Yeah, that's fine. There's quite a few free ones. I would say that going on YouTube and using YouTube videos is just as useful. I think when it comes to mindfulness, you very much need to find out what you like. And if you're having a guided visualization, for example, if you want to do things like meditation, meditation is a skill that develops over time, and guided visualizations can sometimes get you to that point quicker, and some people prefer those guided visualizations, but you then have to sort of test out a few to see whether you like the voice of the person that is doing the guided visualization for you. So I use a paid for mindful app, which is Calm, but I know there's Headspace, and there's Insight Timer as well, which are very good. And
I was going to say Headspace as well, but also if you're looking at for children and young people, then the BBC Bite Size give loads of different activities for mindfulness activities. I mean, that they have got loads on there, and obviously that's on the BBC app as well. So that's quite a good go-to.
there's a comment as well that Smiling Minds is great and covers from younger ages through to adults and has family meditations on it too. Headspace, more votes for Headspace. Okay, next question. How could you help a child with SEND who are having a breakdown? Who would like to take that?
Do you want me to start, and then we can perhaps just share the love, as they say? Okay, so I'll make a start with this one, and I think the main thing is tuning into that child. If you know that child well, you'll be able to perhaps, hopefully, be able to predict some of these things, be able to sort of anticipate and support that child, and to make sure that there are areas within the home or within the early years setting or within the school where that child can actually have some time to be calm, to regulate, and to actually have the things that he or she needs to be able to calm themselves. There's also different things. What about the adult who's got that very close relationship with them? And it might not be you, if you're the teaching assistant or if you're the key person, it might not be you. It might be somebody else that child has decided they're going to make that unique connection with. That's okay. It's not about you. It's about the child. It's about that young person. So if things are escalating, remember, go and seek support, definitely, from that person if it's safe to do so. But remember that this is a unique situation. Everybody's sort of challenges and so on will be unique to them. Stay calm. Tune into the child, try and fight fire with water, try and stay calm, and that really will help to diffuse. But it's about that connection. It's about that special relationship and that level of trust that you will have with that individual child. But never never try to, well, never get in the position where you feel as though you're in that sort of conflict with them, and you're actually trying to de-escalate the situation. So fight fire with water. Passing over to someone else.
So yeah, just reiterating really what you said. I mean, it is so important to tune into the child, because although you might know all there is to know about that particular need, you don't necessarily know about that child. So it's always better to recognise the child and then look at their special educational need, because everybody is different. So what works for one isn't necessarily going to work for another. And I think that that's when people come up against it, when they go, well, I've done this technique before and it's worked. It's a different child. And I think that's what's so important. And like Janet just said, is to make sure that you're looking after yourself. And if you're finding it too much, step back, let somebody else step in. And I think that is a key point, because the child will make the connections with the person that they want to make the connections with. And you must never take it personally, ever. It's just the way things are. And I think, you know, we have to put ourselves in the children's shoes all of the time. Imagine how they are feeling, and those emotions they cannot control. So don't ever think it's anything that you've done, or you know, it's us sort of learning about that particular child.
So the only thing I'd add, and great points from Angie and Janet, but for me, the kind of things alongside all of those things is to validate that child's feelings. Like, don't try and overcompensate, don't try to calm them too quickly. Just really take your time with that. With children with or without SEND, is so important to just pause, take that minute, you know, let them express themselves. That's all part of their journey to self-regulation, is feeling validated and that their feelings are listened to and respected. So don't rush to go straight to the calm stage. Let them have that moment before you start to think about how you continue then into a calm space.
Okay, moving on to another question. As a student, I find it difficult to not become emotional when a child has said something concerning within their family. How could I be able to handle my own emotions easier? Eunice, would you like to take that one?
That's a really interesting one, isn't it? I think the most important thing to start off with is to take a deep breath and take a moment, and make sure that you're soothing yourself. So in the same way that we soothe children by teaching them to use breathing, actually doing that deep breathing ourselves to cope down. And it depends on the sort of stuff, because there's two things. One, that children can say things that trigger things in ourselves, and that's why we have to work really hard to be safe professionals and make sure that we're dealing with things. And the next thing, that you all have a mentor or a line manager, and you must go to them and talk about your feelings about it. They are there to support you. The supervision process in the EYFS is there to support staff, or is meant to support staff with supervision. It's not meant to be line management, it's there to address these issues. And you need to be able to constantly work professionally, so ensuring that in your own body language and things like that, that you're not showing shock to the child or things like that, and that you're acknowledging what they've said to you rather than ignoring it. But the most important especially is always to be able to talk to the person that is supporting you in your work about what you've heard, because you might have a little bit of information that needs to be recorded, that might be part of the jigsaw of a bigger picture that's going on for a child that you won't know and shouldn't know is going on, but you might have something that might feed into something else that is crucially important for them. But first message is make sure that you are in a good position to be able to receive the information. Yeah, and it is our professional self. So when I'm preparing our students, I always talk about the 3 Ps. So our personal, our private, and our personal. So our professional self is the self that we have at work, and that we need to be able to manage that and present our persona. Our personality is the bit that we bring into our work, and our jokes and our joviality to help us do our role. But our private stops outside the door. And if there's something that you hear in the work situation that triggers you, makes you feel unhappy, that you really need to deal with that, because by speaking to those that are there to support you, because sometimes children can make us feel in ways and say things to us which really can concern us. Okay, so it is learning your professional self, learning skills to control yourself, learn appropriate language to respond to the child, but ensure that you always receive support and make sure that you're passing that information on.
Amazing answer, thank you. Does anybody want to add to that?
I think that was answered perfectly. I don't think there's anything I'd want to add to that. Wise words.
Okay, we've got a lot of questions coming through about techniques used for a child that bites, and how they express anger, and how we can support that child. Yeah, lots more about that, about helping children to self-regulate. So who'd like to take that question?
I don't mind kicking off again, and then we can, and then I'll pass over to Angie. So I think, again, it's about knowing that child. It's about tuning in. It's about making sure that you really do have a positive relationship with the children that you're working with. This is key to everything. And that communication, that connection, also making sure, we've talked about self-regulation, but we've not really shown you how you can do that. I know some people are talking about some wonderful things in the chat about sensory baskets and things like that, but these are the things that actually, if we can create these areas within our early years settings, then children will find a way as well to begin to calm and to find a space where they can feel safe and secure. So I think that's key for me, but I'll hand over to Angie. I can see she's very polite with her hand up there.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Janet. Yeah, just really, again, going back to the child and understanding the child, I think the most important thing is, yes, all of those things are important. Allowing that child to self-regulate, offering those safe spaces, but it's also looking at the triggers for that child, looking at what's happening in that child's world to get to that point. And I think it's really important for us to be those observant individuals to look at how we can support that child in that regulation. I mean, there are so many different ways, techniques that I've used in the past, whether it be from just having, flashcards of different colours so that the child recognises, oh, I'm at that point. I've used all sorts of different characters that the child has come up with to help them realise, oh, I'm here now, so I need to come down. Whatever it may be, it's about helping them to recognise, oh, I'm getting to that point now. Let's just see what I can do to support myself. Not so easy with younger children, I get that, but it's all about recognising those triggers is so important. Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. What I have just, I can't believe we've got to 4:25 already. The time has absolutely flown, considering that we were on for 2.5 hours, but I'm sure we could carry on into the night, but everybody has lots of things to do and other commitments. So what I would like everybody to do is put your suggestions about what else you would like us to do in these student conferences. They are your student conferences, and we want you to have all of the information that you need. So there's a lot coming through at the moment about behaviour. I can see, and lots of different ways to support behaviour. And again, we can talk about language within that, positive language, and supporting the child, and lots of other things to go with it. So if you have got any suggestions, pop those in the chat box. And then it just leaves me to pass you back over to Janet King to close the session.
I feel like we should be having a celebration of applause, because it has been absolutely fantastic. I do want to say a massive thank you to our guest speakers today. So to Dr. Eunice Lumsdon, thank you so much for your support and for your words. For the students, Hol and Holly, So we had Hol McNally and Holly Anderson from Gateshead, aptly supported by their tutor Alison Richardson. Thank you so much. To Kirsty Davis and Karen Streeter, with thanks to Prue for coming onto the panel. Thank you so much. To our inspiring student Michaela Pawley, wasn't she brilliant? So thank you to her. And to, of course, to our internal colleagues, to Susan, Stacey, Angie and Karina, a massive thank you. Don't forget to tune in on May the 11th, where we'll be having our next student conference. And we really do value your thoughts and your opinions, and to hear what you know, how things are going within your learning is really key to us. We've talked about tuning into children to find out what they need and where they're up to. We need to tune into you, and that's exactly what these conferences aim to do. So most of all, a great big massive thank you to you. Thank you.
Thank you.